Alright, so we are reacting to ACG, Final Fantasy 7 Remake, Final Fantasy 16 coming to Xbox in 2025. Sony wanted to keep it on PlayStation permanently. So let's get into this and see what it's about. But yeah, let's have the drop. So here's the actual video. Let's move my camera to the side because we don't want to cover him. And let's check this video out in 3, 2, 1, go.
What's going on, everyone? So we got some interesting news here today, which I knew this was going to happen one day because I used to argue with certain fanboys back then, and they just didn't want to believe me. But this came from Nate the Hate, which we know he was spot on with the Nintendo Switch. So ever since that, he's had a huge following build up, and now people are taking what he said serious. He says the new rumor suggests Final Fantasy 16 and Final Fantasy 7 Remake will be announced for the Xbox Series X and S soon. So that's good for people that are only in the Xbox world that never got to experience those games. I beat them all already, and I got the platinum on 16. You know what I mean? I beat Rebirth last year as well too. Phenomenal game. Enjoyed that. 7 Remake's good too. You guys are gonna love all of them.
So Final Fantasy 16, I already knew was coming and was in development because I was told by a source and I trusted that person. I was expecting it last year, to be fair, but it's been it seems it's been pushed to 2025. But I did know that one was coming. 7 is actually a big surprise for me because I didn't think Sony would give it up so easily. But let's see what's going on.
And the Xbox world do not miss those games. And I wonder if Phil Spencer will make a deal to get it on Game Pass eventually to see how if the sales don't go good right at the start. But who knows? He might get it right off the bat, and I'll just take that paycheck to make sure they get that instant profit and then put it on sale. I don't know, but
Question: would you only play this game if it's on Game Pass, or would you actually buy it on Xbox if they were released, as a paid for product? That's Final Fantasy 16 and Final Fantasy 7 Remake. Leave a comment in the description below. I'd love to hear your thoughts.
what we do know is that it's going to happen. But Sony did not want this to happen. We're going to get into that because there are some people that were mocking them for the longest and did not want it to happen at all, which I kind of found funny because, like I said before, I've been gaming for 32 years now. And back then, when a good game was out, console wars were different back then. It was kind of like more professional, and it was between Sony and Sega. Not Sony and Sega, but Nintendo and Sega at first, right? And when like games were good, PS1 came a little bit after that. You had this good game, right? The true competition and the community gamer war was between the players locally and in arcades. When you had this good game, you'd want to take it to your friend and you want him to enjoy it. You know what I mean? Or if he had this console, you'd want to go over to his house because you had the Nintendo, he had the Sega, right? They may have had the handheld too in Pokemon. And you just wanted to enjoy the good games that you probably couldn't get because you were a kid and you have no way to get that.
This is actually really true because back, when I was a kid, we had like the Commodore 64. This is going way back. But my neighbor opposite me, I remember they had I think it was the Spectrum. No, they had the Atari ST. Whereas my neighbor down the road, well, when I say neighbor, friends, they had the Amiga and the Spectrum. And later on, as we went on, we had the NES, they had the Mega Drive, they had the Super Nintendo. So we kind of had one of each. And we used to just go around each other's houses to play the games because we couldn't afford to buy all of them at the time, and neither could they. So it worked out really well. We were like a close knit group of friends that lived really close to each other, like less than 30-second walk between each one. And we would just play it. And, this is how I got access to games, platforms like the Atari Lynx and, the N64 at the time. It was a really good way. But back then, the console wars weren't the same. Like, even when I would go to secondary school, we would walk in and, I loved my Sega Saturn back then. My friends loved their PlayStation. I was fortunate enough to have both the Saturn and the PlayStation. We would talk for hours, about how we would soup up our cars on GT1 and what cars we were saving up to buy, what modifications we were doing, how much more tweaks we could do to get that little bit more extra horsepower, what we could do in a straight line in 0 to 60 or whatever it was, how fast we could get from start to finish, how fast our vehicles could make it around the loop track and whatnot, giving our best times. This is the conversations we used to have back in the day. It used to be centered solely around gaming, not like what you have now where everyone is just crapping on each other, trying to get each other cancelled, trying to make each other look completely and utter retarded. The full works. Like right now, the console wars is probably the most toxic it's ever been. Everyone is just trying to one up each other. But back then, things were different. Things were really different back then. You saw like the whole Nintendo don't from Sega and whatnot. These stick in your mind, right? Because the publishers, the manufacturers themselves were doing it, but it was fun. It was engaging, and the console warring was done in a way that almost, yes, it was rivalry between the platforms, but in a weird way, it brought the gamers together. Not like now, where they've been separated entirely and people feel more distant than ever before. If you turn around and say that you own all the platforms like I do and enjoy games on all platforms, you are demonized on either side. Both sides don't like you because you like the opposite platform. It's crazy. And how we actually got to this point, I really don't know. But it's really sad. But I agree with him.
The community was a lot more mature back then. Nowadays, people don't want people to have and experience a game because it's on a device they don't like.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
I kind of think that idea is very stupid and immature. It's different when you want one company to win over the other, but you still want the others to be around because, in that sense, they make each other better.
100% competition is key. And we're seeing that right now with PlayStation. They've definitely pulled their foot off the pedal. They don't have that urgency they had they had during the end of the PS3 era or through the PS4 era. That urgency is not there. I don't care what anyone says. It's not. And ultimately the gamers suffer because games just come out at a lesser cadence and you get less, in my opinion. Because they don't have to try. They don't have to put the effort in. Because they know that right now they are the platform that's winning and they are the majority market shareholder. And with Microsoft going predominantly third party, even though they do have a platform, it means that ultimately, yes, they're getting more games, but they're getting less of that first party goodness. And that's what made PlayStation shine. I know people are going to refer to their good third party support, but to me, their first party is where it's at. They put a lot of effort into it, and we're just not seeing that anymore.
Um, but an example of that is just some things Sony was trying to do, like right here, watch the post. This was like a little bit over a year ago. Sony has secured the Final Fantasy VII trilogy as a console exclusive. This was before Square had decided that they can't do that anymore. Wouldn't the first two being exclusive essentially be a confirmation? I can't imagine a third installment of a trilogy being multi-platform if the first two are exclusive. And there's a lot of people that wanted this, by the way. 363, 291, 656.
Just to answer that question, if they put a sales target or a onto these in order to maintain the exclusivity, then yes, they can actually make the third one multi-platform and release the rest with after a certain period of exclusivity.
7, but a lot more than that, obviously, too. Icon Era is another example because they hit on Xbox. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth director Hamaguchi says a lot of work on part 3 is done, but the development challenge will be implementing world travel in the Highwind. The trilogy is also confirmed to be a PlayStation console exclusive. This was back in March 6, 2024, but things changed very quick after that. And that was a Square Enix decision. You think Sony made that decision? No. Tides have changed hugely since that time, right? Going over here. As of now, Final Fantasy 16 is not coming to Xbox as part of a PS5 exclusive deal. This was a little bit later on during that year. However, Square Enix has confirmed plans to eventually bring the game to Xbox, though no specific release date has been announced, meaning it is likely to be ported to Xbox sometimes in the future, potentially in 2025. Obviously, this was said in 2024. You know what I mean? But if it was up to Sony, they would keep it there. Why wouldn't they? You know what I mean? Um, and This was Icon era, right? Square Enix confirms goal to bring Final Fantasy 16 to Xbox. Look at what they have to say about this. This is like pony bot land, by the way. So it won't be out till at least mid 2025 from the sounds of what. Wouldn't be surprised if Square are waiting for a Game Pass offer because they know the game will hardly sell on Xbox. I just think it will be compromised by Series S. It pushed PlayStation hard, has high PC specs, but they've learned a lot since then. Also, barely anyone on PC touched this unless it goes into Game Pass. How many on Xbox will even buy it? But the funny thing about that statement is that it's going to be going to the Switch too. Yeah, they'll be using NVIDIA systems, which are better, but it's can run on the Series S because they're going to get it to run on Switch too. And
There is zero reason why they can't get this to run on the Series S. At the end of the day, all they need to do is lower the resolution, then upscale it. The resolution will take most of the memory bandwidth away that they need to save, and at the end of the day, it's just all down to optimization. That's it. It's just an optimization. If need be, Microsoft can move in and try to help them out. But all of that you're seeing there is pretty much gatekeeping. Now, obviously, if the game requires like 32 gigs of memory, it's just not going to happen, right? But that's not what the situation is here. You're not running the game at 4K. You're not running the game at 1440p. Even if the game runs at 720p on the Series S, that's perfectly acceptable, considering Final Fantasy 16 ran at 720p quite a lot of the times on the PS5. So that's an acceptable thing for that console. On the Series X, no. But the Series S is a $200 machine. Don't expect miracles from it. I know people look at it and say 720p, lol, but you've got to have something wrong up here to think that a £200 console is going to do that. Just let that sink in.
learned a lot since then. The game wasn't even finished fully. The Xbox version is almost a waste of time. No. Unfortunately, it's not going to change the sales of the game. Boy,
I kind of agree with that to a certain degree because anyone that's wanted to play it by now probably more or less has, right? And they probably may not buy it on the Xbox. I think there will be some sales, but with it coming this late in the day, it's obviously going to impact sales. But if they can get past a certain threshold, and if that threshold internally is happy for Square Enix, then I think what you'll see going forward is what Square Enix want to do is the day and date strat.
it's going to be fun to see them trying to run on the Series S. But this is just icon errors. This is nothing new to me, right? We're going to get back to this in a second. But let's go down and read this. As I said, credible leaker Nate the Hate has been spreading rumors about Final Fantasy 16 and 7 remake could be announced for Xbox sometimes this year. So take a look at this. According to Nate the Hate, 16 will be announced, released on Xbox shortly. Not in the near future, but around the mid first half of 2025, around spring or late spring. 7 Remake is scheduled for later this year and Rebirth for 2026. 16, we can pull this up right here, is not presently planned for the Switch 2. The decision was taken to prioritize the 7 Remake and Rebirth. They want to get that out first because they feel like that would sell more. It doesn't mean 16 will not be coming there, but they're trying to prioritize that for the Switch 2. Which actually makes sense if you think about it. Square's trying to make more money, you know what I mean? And they're trying to be what I would like to call satisfied because the PlayStation 5 did not meet their expectations. So they're basically telling Sony we can't do this anymore.
And the general rule of the thumb is the more places your game is, the more chance of money you can make. Once you've got the game built, ports are generally cheaper to get from one place to another. Just look at Sony. They remaster everything. Low cost, high profit margin. And from what we've seen, Square Enix seems to be pleasantly happy with the PC sales of Final Fantasy 16 and 7 Rebirth. So I don't see what the complaints about. At the end of the day, games coming out a year later will impact sales. There's just no ways to get around it. It's going to impact sales. People have already bought it. They're not crazy like me who are going to buy it.
I mean, it's just not the PS1 days. Uh, so if we look over here, Nathan Haight, like I said, actually no, we don't even need to do that. He basically made it clear that Final Fantasy Remake would be announced for the Series X because, like I said, Sony wanted to make it a permanent deal.
Of course, that is what Sony wants. Sony wants all the games to be exclusively not available on Xbox. This isn't a surprise. This isn't news. This is the way they are. This is why a lot of people are upset with Phil, because while Sony is doing everything it can do to make all their games that they're coming, or all the third-party games exclusively not available to Xbox, Microsoft is putting their games on PlayStation and getting nothing in return. This is ultimately what, the consumers are generally upset about. I mean, if you look at the Ape Escape little mini game on Metal Gear Delta, that shows you just how petty Sony is actually getting with their IP or anything being on Xbox. And if they have a full, if they can, they will restrict it if it doesn't affect them financially. And as you can see, even there with that Ape Escape, like, what damage would it have done? Absolutely nothing. But they still went their way and made sure that it wouldn't be on there. And to me, that is absolutely pathetic. But that just shows you the mentality of Sony. They want all the games, be it third party or not, to be exclusively not available on Xbox.
Which says a lot about them. And there's people that wanted that, but that's not happening. So, you think Square wants to pass up? As if it does come to Game Pass, which there's nothing wrong with that. You think they want to pass up that instant paycheck? They could give them 100 million for all of that, right? And they could still sell the copies that they're going to sell on there. And if they make a handheld Xbox 2, people want to get it for that. And then they'll make, 100 plus 200 million with the Switch 2. And then now Square is feeling like they're being satisfied. You know what I mean? And that's good to give them more money to make more IPs and keep the series going. This is not bad. What would have been bad is Sony's route. We already know they're making bad decisions to begin with, anyways, and they need a lot of turnarounds over there. So, yeah, we're going to have to change some things around here, right? You know what I mean?
Exactly what you mean. Like the whole, we've shipped 75 million consoles, and I mean, I just saw, I'm not even going to name names. You can go to your favorite pony channel and see. No, that doesn't mean me. I'm not a pony. But you can go to your favorite pony channel and you can actually see for yourself. They are boasting, despite the fact that they openly admitted to me on social media that shipped doesn't mean sold. They are still telling their communities that they have sold 75 million. So they are basically lying to their own communities. It's crazy, but that's how these people are. They will lie for absolutely any win that they can get. We all know they didn't sell 75 million. Sony themselves have told you that they haven't sold 75 million. They have shipped 75 million. My assumption is that they're probably in the region of about 58 to 63 million, maybe 64 million consoles sold, and the rest are in warehouses. I mean, as of April 2024, they had 49 million active PlayStation Plus subscriptions. And they had 49 million PS4 PlayStation Plus subscriptions. Those are activated consoles. 49. So I think 60 to 64 million is about right, based on where we are now, especially with the big hoorah they had from that point to the end of the year. But 75 million? No. But they're going to lie to their community left, right, and center by telling them that they sold 75 million when they full well know that they haven't. Because it says shipped. And unless they believe that Sony is the most incompetent company on the planet that can't do their own audit trail and have their own numbers factually stated of how many they've actually activated on the network, which, believe me, they have those numbers, but these PlayStation fans will tell you that Sony is so inept and so dumb and so stupid that they won't have these numbers available and they can't do an audit trail because they don't know the first thing about business, economics, or management. This is what the PlayStation fans want you to believe, that they'll go on with the narrative that shipped means sold, when it obviously doesn't.
So my thing is that yeah, the series needs to expand, and these are great games, and they shouldn't just be getting only those sales. I think the same thing about the Xenoblade series. Hell, man, I wish that would sell more because I think it's just as good and better than Final Fantasy in certain ways. If you
Nah, man, come on, man, come on. Don't do me dirty like that. You know the Final Fantasy series are, they're just they're above everything else. Come on, ACG, come on. Don't do this to me. Don't do me dirty like that, man.
haven't played the Xenoblade series, I highly recommend doing that on the Nintendo Switch 2. If you didn't have Nintendo Switch 1, you will absolutely love it. If you love Final Fantasy, you love Dragon Quest, you're a JRPG lover, play the Xenoblade Chronicles series. You're going to be blown away. If you love that 90s magic, it's there. And they take it to another level that's different than Final Fantasy.
You know what? You can tell that he believes it as well. He's genuine. I can see it in his face. He genuinely loves the Xeno series, and I love it. The way he said it just there, man, I could see the joy coming out of him. The absolute pure, just joy. It was. I love to see that. I do. I really love to see that because unlike a lot of people who fake the joy for the clicks and stuff, whatnot, that right there was pure, genuine joy. And you know that he absolutely loves that series. I love to see it, man. I love it. I love it when people enjoy gaming to that level. It's wonderful to see.
But they're both great. But all in all, I want to see the Xbox community enjoy these three masterpieces right here because they're fantastic games. Obviously, 7 Remake and Rebirth, I would put ahead of 16, but 16 is still a good game.
It is a very good game.
And you could put a lot of time into it. I mean, I put almost 100 hours into it, just like I put 100 hours into Rebirth, and probably about 70 into Remake. And I'm looking forward to part 3. They do a fantastic job. So yeah, I mean, if you guys want to also play the game on like hard mode and do New Game Plus and all that, you can do that,
Nah,
and you'll be
not
able to
hard
put
mode, bro.
well over that into that. So they're pretty beefy,
My community knows me, man. It's either normal or easy. I'm like, I generally try to stick to normal.
and you're gonna have a great time. So, like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what y'all think. Decided to get this out and let y'all know that it is coming for people who want to experience that because you got 14, right? They wanted to keep that locked too, but that didn't happen. And I don't know if people remember in the 360 days, Microsoft
All right, so the whole 14 thing over there, he is actually wrong. Microsoft was the issue in not getting the game over sooner. A quick TLDR, the game was pretty much made, I think, in Heaven's Ward or Stormblood, and it was ready to launch, but Microsoft wouldn't take away the Game Pass Live requirement, and they also wanted the game to be only playable to Xbox players only. And Square Enix said no, the game's going to be available for you to play with anyone, and no Xbox Live requirement. Microsoft didn't back down, so the game didn't come out. And in the end, where we are right now, the game still requires an Xbox Live requirement. I guess Square Enix finally caved in, um, but the requirement for it to be everywhere was, I guess they came to an agreement that the game's going to be available on all platforms, but you can maintain your Xbox Live requirement, which I still think is wrong, by the way. That game shouldn't require Xbox Live because it doesn't use Xbox Live servers at all. So I will stand by that. But the reason 14 got delayed all this time is 100% on Microsoft and Xbox. 100%, without a shadow of doubt. It is purely on Microsoft. Square Enix had the game ready to go. But Microsoft's requirements meant that Square Enix just wasn't prepared to do it.
had the Final Fantasy games, right? And it had Final Fantasy 11.
11 is dope. I wish they brought that back to console. I would lose my life again.
It's just that, some things happened. Money had it. But that's all over with now. Now it's time to move to multi-platform. See, it's not just Microsoft doing this, right? It's everybody realizing we want to be everywhere. It needs to be a unified release on all platforms. Any profit is better than no profit, even if it's sold 500K or a million.
And this is why Phil Spencer said he wants the platform to do the talking rather than the games forcing you onto a platform. This I kind of agree on to a certain degree. If you like your trophies and you like the system that PlayStation gives you, then you pick up a PlayStation and you buy your games off them. Whereas if you like the gamer tag scores, the systems on Xbox, you'll buy an Xbox, but you'll still get the games. And at the end of the day, as far as Sony or Microsoft is concerned, they're still getting their 100% or 70% revenue. So it's a win-win situation for them. I just don't know if, when we'll actually get there.
You know what I mean? That's still really good. That's my take on that. But there we have it. Peace out, y'all. Look forward to these great games coming this year.
And that's the video. I think it's a really good video. I think there's a lot he went through, and it was, really well broken down, and lots of important, informative stuff that was labeled there. And I think, he did a really good job. Lots of good points, lots of good facts and figures, some corrections in there that I put in. But overall, great stuff. ACG, great video, man. I'm going to leave a link to his video in the description below. Please do go check it out. Leave him a like and a view because it is his content, and I would very much appreciate if you would do that, because it means a lot to me that, you guys are giving the creators that I react to, because you guys are the ones wanting me to react to these videos, at least a view for their video and a like. Thanks a lot, and I'll see you in the next one. Remain legend.